Good evening. I'm Dr. Fred Rouse, the Real Money Doctor, and it's currently about 7 o'clock or so on Sunday evening, March 22nd, year 2020. So I'm going to do my daily recap of what's happening in the world today and how it basically affects you. And we start out normally at this point in time with the biggest issue, which is the health issue. Right now, the United States is the third largest number of COVID-19 cases in the world, following only behind Italy and China. So right now we've got China, we've got Italy, and the U.S. is in number third for the total number of cases reported right now. As of about an hour ago, it looked like the cases in the U.S. were about 31,000. Over 10,000 of those were in New York State alone. So far, we've had about 390 deaths, and it's about an hour ago. State of Illinois has 296 cases, and one of those is actually an infant. So we've got confirmed cases in all 50 states at this point in time. Stay-at-home orders are increasing in the number of states. Right now, it's New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, California, Illinois, Georgia, Idaho, Louisiana, and Colorado. That's for all non-essential workers. And all of those states have some form of a stay-at-home order in place at this point in time, or are about to put one into place in the next few hours or in the following day or two. So again, that's all for non-essential workers. That is determined locally. So you have to find out what exactly that means. There's some discussion in New York about having a liquor store open as essential, and they're pretty much essential at this point in time, and they're going to be more essential as times go by. Right now, about 40 to 80% of the population is likely to be infected at some point in time. Just want to recap, the COVID-19 virus can live, again, on inanimate surfaces for up to 9 days. So if somebody coughs, in their hand, touches the door, touches the shopping cart, touches a can of food on a shelf, and then you go and you touch that same thing, you're going to pick that up. The incubation period is as long as 14 days. And that's what's causing the biggest problem, is that people can carry this around, transmit it, and have no idea that they're actually transmitting because they don't even know they're sick yet. From the sounds of things, a vaccine is probably nowhere near in production. They're still doing testing. So look for basically 12 months out at the earliest would be my best expectation at this point in time. For treatments, there is no direct treatment for COVID-19. All they can do is treat the symptoms at this point in time and try and keep those alleviated as best as possible. There's still a shortage of testing all over the place, protective equipment, and ICU beds are having major shortages. I'd mentioned earlier in the week that the CDC had protocols set up for medical personnel to use scarves and bandanas. This is like a third world nation at this point in time. It's getting really scary. Some hospitals are currently reusing disposable masks, trying to sanitize them. Now, in the rest of the world that you and I live in, well, it's important to reuse things. In the hospital world, a month ago, if you tried to reuse a disposable item, they'd fire you. It's that bad that they have a shortage and they're trying to make do, but anytime you try and sterilize a disposable item, you're putting someone at risk along the way. So that's what's going on the health side of things. On the politics side of things, and again, we cover health, we cover politics, we cover the markets, and then we cover how things actually affect you. We cover the politics because they influence how the health responds and how the markets respond. You may not like it. I don't really know. I don't really care. But it does have an influence on things. And you have to look at an entire picture to see what happens. And in the news and politics, Vice President Pence was exposed yesterday. One of his staff people were exposed. He was exposed to a staff person. It looks as though he and his wife both tested negative. Senator Ron Paul was the first senator to test positive for COVID-19 at this point in time. So we're moving along. It's affecting a lot of people at this point in time. The president comes on every day and makes a very, very optimistic spin on things. And I understand the need for optimism and to try and lift the nation. But some of the information he has is blatantly wrong. Okay, he's making totally unsubstantiated medical claims. In the last few press interviews that he's had on the COVID situation, not only Vice President Pence himself, but Dr. Fauci also had to come in and try and clean up things that he had said regarding the use of certain medicines to treat things. Again, it's nice to be upbeat. It's nice to have a thought that, oh yeah, I would like that thing to happen. However, okay, I'm not a golfer. If you ask me for golfing advice, I could certainly give it to you. It'd be totally worthless. If you want golf advice, you should go check in with someone like Tiger Woods. Okay, if you want medical advice, you don't ask the president for medical advice. You ask a doctor. For some reason, the CDC, who normally in every other national health emergency has taken the lead from day number one, they've been sidetracked and just barely coming into play at this point in time. I don't know why that is. Okay, tests are still, far in between at this point in time. You need to have certain conditions met before you get tested. There are simply not enough tests to go around, and if you're simply not feeling good, you shouldn't be tested anyway. However, if you've got certain conditions, you've been exposed to somebody, you've known exposure, you've got certain persistent conditions that they can pick out in a screening, you may or may not get tested. Okay, healthcare workers need to get tested without a doubt in the world. The Defense Production Act, okay, was signed probably about 3 days ago by the president, which is a relatively big deal. However, it just wasn't used at all and still not being used. That Defense Production Act can mandate manufacturers to put things together to start manufacturing equipment that's needed. If it were put into place, even if it were put into place, you're still talking 2 months probably before somebody can retool a factory from what they were doing to what they need to do now. Ford has made some offers to start building ventilators. That's great. Okay, they've offered it themselves. However, their time to retool their factories in order to do that could still be a month or 2 months out before they start manufacturing at all. So the equipment that you're looking for is not readily available. Okay, it's really sparse, and the states have been left to their own to try and get things. Supposedly, they are passing out the federal stockpiles, but it's certainly nowhere near enough. If it were, okay, despite what the politicians have to say, if it were, hospital personnel would not be going crazy right now trying to reuse disposable masks. So you've got those situations. What else is big? I mentioned 2 days ago about a simulation that the government did called Crimson Contagion. The simulation was by Health and Human Services. It was from January 2019 to August 2019. So it was a good 8-month simulation of this type of scenario. What would happen if somebody came from China, landed in O'Hare, and had this virus? Well, if you go through there, and it's been reported by the New York Times and again by the Chicago Tribune, I'll put the link again at the end of this when I post this up on YouTube on my channel, The Real Money Doctor. But it's a really interesting read. The government knew that they simply didn't have enough materials and were ill-prepared to handle this type of situation. They knew ahead of time. They knew this back in October and November of 2019, even before things were ever reported about China. So they knew. Now, the next big thing, bailouts. Okay, the Congress is meeting probably just about now. I'm not certain. Maybe it gets started again at 6 o'clock. I'm not certain. For Tier 3, they've already passed a number of stimulus packages, tier 1 and tier 2, and they're working on tier 3. Total between all the packages is probably around $2 trillion. The idea of this is to help industry, yes, okay, but primarily to help individual people, okay, because tons of small businesses are out of business. If they're not out of business now, they will soon be out of business. Bars have been shut down, restaurants have been shut down, gyms have been shut down, lots of support facilities have been shut down. They just can't keep up. Hotels, I've got friends in a bed and breakfast, okay, put their life savings into this bed and breakfast, and their bookings have shut down. The airline industry, the cruise industry, all these major industries need help. But outside of all those industries, you've got individual people that are also working in those industries that are affected, that are out of work, and have no paycheck coming in. Now, they're trying to extend with this Tier 3 bill unemployment benefits for some extended period of time, trying to get checks to individual people, which would be a novel thing. But for some reason, if you remember back with the Tax Act a couple of years ago, that it was supposed to do all these wonderful things for everyone. It did wonderful things for the top 2% and major corporations who did buybacks, stock buybacks, and gave executive bonuses and increased their dividends. That's not going to help the guy that's out of work today. It's really not going to help you. So Congress or the senators are trying to work this out. It's nowhere near close at this point in time. I don't know where that's going to be. And if it ever gets, they'll do something at some point in time. One, I don't know. And then when the actual relief comes and the actual checks come, you don't know what's going to happen with that either, how much or when, or how long they're going to last. If this goes on for 2 months, 3 months, okay, what are you supposed to do with no income for 2 or 3 months if you're busy working? Or you used to be busy working, and now you're just at home. Now, even Mark Cuban, okay, Mark Cuban got tons of money, tons of companies, and he said companies should never be allowed to buy back stock again, ever again. So the Republicans and Democrats are fighting this back and forth. Who knows what the compromise bill is going to be. But they're working on the language, and the language has major implications. A little minor language, but it has major implications on what it means to you and how much of a check, if you get any checks at all. The market is down. Again, on Friday, 913 points. We're down to the 2017 levels at this point in time. 32% drop from its high in February of 2013. February 13th was the high, and the low has been a 32% drop at the point in time. How's all this affect you? Which is really the only thing that actually counts. All these things are happening outside, and that's a lovely thing. It's nice to know about these things, but how does it affect you? Well, FEMA started deploying fully equipped 250-bed 10 hospitals. They're starting to go out right now. 2 hospital ships that the president is running off, they're going to be out there doing all these things. They've been deployed, but they're not going to be doing COVID cases. They're there to take the overflow of routine cases from the hospitals so the hospitals can handle the COVID cases. Now, I'm glad they're deploying these hospital ships. There's at least 2 of them. There could be 3 or 4. I'm not certain at this point in time. I didn't get a chance to look at that. But they're still at least 1 to 2 weeks out from actually doing anything at all. So again, that's being pushed out. Right now we're in day number 7 of the 15-day whatever the federal government's doing at this point in time, trying to slow things down. We're only on day number 7. This isn't getting any better. It really isn't. The cases keep going up. Okay, the deaths keep going up. The materials are still not where they need to be because they're simply not, they don't exist. So that's what's going on that end. The states and the cities are acting exceptionally responsibly, and they're putting in, again, a number of stay-at-home situations. I just rattled off the earlier states, and a number of cities also are doing those things. Most cities are relatively responsible. There's still a couple down in Florida that they left the beaches open. They'll probably be closing sometime shortly. The DAs and the police, local DAs and local police departments, have made some changes to adjust for what's going on. They understand they don't want an outbreak in a jail where you can't get social distancing because everybody's just there and they're locked up in one small area. So Some police departments and some DAs are not arresting and not prosecuting nonviolent criminals. That's probably a good thing at this point in time. We'll see what happens with that one. The bigger problem is some court systems are actually shut down at this point in time, so that if you get locked up or were locked up on some semi-bogus charge, and hey, that happens. Someone could have reported something and you could have been arrested for something, and if it actually went to trial, there's no proof and you would have been dismissed. But right now the entire court system is shut down, and so there's a problem in there. And you can get caught in that situation if you happen to be in the legal system. Now, the Department of Labor Thursday announced this yesterday, reported 281,000 new unemployment claims for the week ending March 14th. As things get further along, that number is going to grow without a doubt in the world. And I believe it was Goldman Sachs already reported that they expected 2.5 million unemployment claims. Some doctors and healthcare workers right now are starting to test positive. And again, you're in that mix every day. Okay, they can stay home when they're at home, and they can do the social distancing when they're at home, but the nature of their job is to be right there in the middle of things, and they are. And a number of them are starting to test positive at this point in time. As they start to test positive, they get quarantined, they get pulled out. Bigger strain on the system. The existing people are getting worked to death at this point in time, putting in extra shifts. Some places are asking for volunteers from retired people. That is happening, okay, to have a pool of ex-people that used to work in healthcare, doctors and nurses. They're still very competent, but they've been retired, and they're building this pool at this point in time, and they may end up having to tap that pool without a doubt in the world. Now, what else is going on? Again, most places are shut down for at least 2 weeks. Some schools are projected not even to open until the fall at this point in time. So if you get kids and parents at home, parents can't go anywhere because of the kids and because their individual industries or jobs may have already been shut down. Their businesses may have been shut down. There's going to be a cash crunch without a doubt in the world. Again, depending on your economic wherewithal, if you're in lower income, you've got serious problem because you're working paycheck to paycheck. If you're middle class, a lot of them are still paycheck to paycheck, but you've got a little cash reserve. You're starting to go through that relatively quickly. That might last another week or two. Depending on where you're at, you may have some retirement savings. Most people have some retirement savings, not a whole lot though. Okay, that's going to get started to get liquefied and get pulled out for actual cash expenses after the credit cards get built up. So it's going to be a problem. Now's a good time while you're home, not much to do, to look at your retirement situation. Okay, look at your accounts at this point in time. Even conservative people, and I know a couple conservative people that direct people how to diversify their income and how to manage portfolios. Even they are saying that cash is not a bad place to be. And they're recommending to liquidate half their equity positions at this point in time. Not put them into bonds, but just keep them in cash. Cash is not a bad thing in an emergency situation like this. What else is going on here? Okay. Okay. None of this is going to come back anytime soon. You can have whatever estimates you want, but this is not going to come back soon. And when it does come back, it's going to come back slowly. Again, we haven't reached the bottom in the market yet. Okay. The job situation is going to get worse, considerably worse before it gets better. Okay. And 2 months, 3 months is really, really a good possibility for this to exist for at least another 2 months. Right now, it's only a couple weeks into things, and we're just decided shutting down the country. Not quite there yet, but it's affecting everyone. It will continue to affect everyone. Now, understand that little store clerk that you were so rude to before, they're your best friend right now. They're there every day. They don't have protective equipment. They don't have masks. They might have gloves. They might be able to sanitize their equipment once an hour, maybe 2 or 3 times an hour if they're lucky. But they're there. They're stocking shelves for you. Okay? Treat these people nicely. They're your best friends. Okay? You can still get out. There's still plenty of food out there. The food is still coming in. The shelves are still being stocked. Okay? Some of the big box stores, Costco, Sam's, those types of things, some items might be wiped out. But some of the smaller stores, the Acme's, the Gennardi's, okay, the Publix, they're still stocked relatively well and will continue to be stocked most likely relatively well. So no need to hoard anything. You can still go out and get these things. Just, again, go out at an absolute minimum and maintain your social distancing when you do those things. When you're home, okay, now's the time when a lot of people are going to be worried about the future. Lots of stress going on. Okay. Try and maintain as normal a diet as possible. Look for some vitamin supplements. If you're not taking them, you should be taking them. Okay. Meditation is not a bad thing at this point in time. You need to calm down. You can't worry about what's happening. Just deal with what actually is. You can't worry about what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow or what might happen a month from now. Worry about what's happening right now. Okay? Live in the moment. Plan for the future, but live in the moment. It will relieve tons of stress. You want to do some type of exercise activity if you can. And if you're watching me, chances are you've got the internet. Otherwise, you couldn't watch me. Go on YouTube. They've got tons of dancer-size type exercise videos there that you can watch. Okay. They've got yoga videos there that you can watch, beginner yogas, so you get some exercise. Also very important. Be careful at home. While you're at home, there's an amazing number of injuries while you're in your own home. So now is the time to be more careful about those things. Okay. Try and keep your sanity as best as you can. Okay. Write a daily journal. It'll give you a chance in these isolated times to express your feelings. What's different today than it was yesterday? What's different today than it was last week or last month? How are you feeling today? Why are you feeling that way? Write those things down. It's a very, very cathartic experience, and it will free you quite a bit from a lot of mental trash that you might be experiencing at this point in time. I mentioned yesterday, I want to mention again today, YALE is offering a free course, The Science of Well-Being. You can sign up for that online. Again, if you're here, I'm going to provide the link in our YouTube channel so that you can go and get to that link. I'm also going to provide the link for the Crimson Contagion story, which you should take a peek at. Very interesting reading. Very interesting reading. Now, a lot of your plan A's of working for 30 years and retiring, they just got shot to hell. If you haven't had a plan B in place yet, now's the time to put one in place, without a doubt in the world. There are certain things you want to do for your plan B. Okay? You need to find out what they are, and tomorrow I'm going to address some things which I would think would be great for a plan B. I'll lay out some really specific items to have some of your own business, what an ideal business would actually look like. For now, I help people with plan Bs. You can go to my website, drrousenow.com. Take a peek at what I have there. If it's of interest to you, fine, watch the video, see what it's all about. Possibly it'll work for you, maybe it won't, but it's something to think about. Okay? Now's the time that everyone is starting to pull together. It really is. You got to look at your own self, look at plan B. Okay, what are you going to do 6 months from now? Okay, a year from now. The job that you had may not longer be in existence 2 months from now, 3 months from now. Okay. However, okay, all the people who used to make buggy whips way back when they had horses got other jobs and moved on. You'll be able to move on also. So take a peek at things. Again, tomorrow I will outline specific items that I think would be great for an ideal business that you can run on your own. You will get through this without a doubt in the world. We got through Ebola. We got through 9/11. We're going to get through this. Again, people are isolated at this point in time. Check in on your friends and neighbors. Okay, Again, the elderly especially, they were isolated before because the kids all moved out of the area. Okay, give them a call, see how things are going. It doesn't cost you anything to be nice. If you have questions or concerns, email me, private message me. I will try and address those concerns in an upcoming show, or I'll try and answer those questions for you. So for now, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Make sure you check out my YouTube channel, therealmoneydoctor.com, for the links, and again, I'll get them posted later on today or tomorrow morning at some point in time. But for now, be safe, keep your social distancing, and I hope we'll see you tomorrow. All right, bye now.